Hey, good morning, college football fans. What a big week of college football it was. Let's dig in and look at it. Here's our AP Top 25 for this week. As you can see, I'm actually pretty much in alignment with everything that the AP Top 25 did. I think two things I would call out here. One was I had called Michigan losing to Penn State by 2 touchdowns. Clearly, I was wrong. As I look at my rating and ranking system, I still stand by that Michigan hadn't played anybody, and really some of their wins were not that impressive. But this one they came through, and you'll notice out here my resume ranking system with that win really boosted them up. So I got to ask, maybe Michigan's for real, and I'll have to take back some of the things I've been saying about them. What I don't understand is why Clemson falls. I don't think Florida State was that bad, and the game was being played in Florida State. So I guess I don't understand why Clemson's being punished. But overall, I'm pretty happy with these results. I did call Tennessee beating Alabama. I thought that Tennessee would win by a lot more, and this was a nail biter, although Tennessee was up in the first half quite a bit. But definitely a good game. Definitely saw two really good teams. I got to say, from the Alabama perspective, very, very impressed with Bryce Young coming back from that injury and the way he played. I mean, this was a game of like a ton of offense, and I really thought Tennessee was going to roll through that thing much more. So I got to say, I agree with the rankings. I like the way Alabama and Tennessee were swapped in this 3-6 position. I'm still going to throw a little bit of doubt out there, and I know my Alabama friends aren't going to like it, but I'm still questioning whether a one-loss Alabama fits in the middle of all of these undefeated teams in the top 7 or 8. Not saying it's totally wrong. I'm just not saying I'm comfortable with it quite yet. So that'll be interesting. We'll see how that plays out. Alabama's still got some pretty big games left to play as they work their way through that SEC schedule. Oklahoma State losing to TCU. You know, this is what I've been saying. I don't know which way the Big 12 is going to go, so we finally got some really good definition. And I'm going to toot my own horn here. I called Utah beating USC. If you look in my other broadcast that I had, I actually have Utah getting the number 2 seed through a little bit of tiebreaker scenarios. But for me, I really felt once Utah got to play somebody meaningful at home, they would find a way to win, and that's exactly what happened here. Was Utah found a way to win? Whereas their other big games that they played against UCLA and Florida were close, but they were on the road and they just couldn't hold on. I really thought playing at home would make the difference there, and it really seems to have. All right, looking at the second half of the table, again, I don't have a whole lot to say here. I'm actually quite happy with the way everything turned out within the tables. I think the sports writers more or less got it right in here. I think the only thing I would question is this, NC State number 15 playing number 18, and NC State seemed to take an 8-point drop on a 6-point loss. That one doesn't make sense to me. I didn't see the game, so I don't know if there's more context to it. I just think they're being overtly punished. Um, so I don't know. Like I said, I just look at that and I say, that doesn't really, really line up in my view on there. Although when I do go look at my performance rating or my resume ranking, NC State is definitely down at the bottom. So this does align more to my mathematical formula, but I don't get the inconsistency in the AP poll. But aside from that, I'm actually not too bad with the way the AP worked out this week. So let's throw them a couple of bones and say, hey, I think they're getting it right at this stage. So comparing this the other direction, I'm not saying TCU is the number one team in the country. I'm just saying they've got the best resume at the moment. Um, I'm kind of leaning towards Tennessee being the number one team after what I saw, but I definitely don't think we can discount Georgia that's in there. So, and you'll notice Michigan moved their way up quite a bit on my charts now. But again, if we look down here, basically we have most of the top 10 on this side and the second half of the top 10 on this side. So things are really coalescing between the two ranking systems. We'll see how long that lasts. If we look at it from the other perspective, and this is the one that I really like looking at because it really gives me a visual graphic as to how things are going. You can see I've got TCU showing that they're a little underrated. They're 8th in the AP poll, but have the best resume ranking in mine. But really, you can see this top 5 now. There used to be all those teams up here, and they've all come into the box, which is my correlated box. I really don't have a lot of what I would call overrated teams anymore. They're all sitting right on the edge of the correlation box. We'll see what happens when Ohio State comes back into action next week and how they do. I still think they've got too many home games from a fairness perspective. So, we'll see. I guess my system would have said that Oklahoma State should have fallen a few more places in the AP. But I'm really not too unhappy with that. That was a very close game, double overtime. I think I don't think that they're totally off. I'm still not a Texas believer, and I think Mississippi State, I'm actually a little bit more bullish on Mississippi State. I'd like to see them come into the box a little bit more, but I don't think that that's a bad ranking for them. If you look at the bottom half, the underrated side, Syracuse, Kansas State, Tulane coming in, I don't think they stay here very long. I don't really think they're underrated. I looked at their overall schedule. It's not that impressive. I still think LSU does better. James Madison, they fell out of the top 25 after being in for a week. I looked at their loss. It wasn't that big of a deal. And I still think Florida State's a little bit better than what the AP's giving them credit for. But that's about it. Like I said, for the first time, like I said, going into week 7, I just don't have a whole lot to complain about. I see the data evening out between the resume rankings and the AP polls. I think if I were to go and look at it, I do question again, Alabama being one loss and most of the teams on this side of the axis, most of the teams are undefeated in the top 10 still. So I kind of question that. The other thing I kind of question, and there's a lot of room to argue about this, I would say, is you got a lot of SEC teams kind of occupying the top 12, 15, really the top 25 in general. Maybe I should go back and do another look at the overall SEC average rating, things like that, and compare that to the other conferences. Definitely, they've got a lot of presence in there, and I'm just curious how that really plays out. But we'll watch that a little bit closer over the next few weeks. Okay, with that, that's all I've got for you. Like I said, I think it was a great equalizing week. We saw a lot of great matchups. Looking forward to next week. Take care. I hope you love college football as much as I do. Please subscribe. Hopefully we'll have a little more to talk about next week. Thanks. Bye.